Hello everybody, welcome back to another video from Drinkard Brews, where I'll be talking about another Revised 40 deck. Over in Facebook, the Revised 40 playgroup is still battling it out with their tribal brews in the optional challenge, and because of that optional challenge I've been inspired to look at some tribal decks with tribes that are off the beaten path, as it were. So something other than merfolk, goblins, and plague rats and zombies. I did a deep dive in Scryfall and Gatherer to look at the different tribes that are available in Revised with their, not errata, but their updated printings. And Ley Druid is no longer a cleric, rest in peace job status. Instead, he is a human druid, and the only other human druid in Revised is Verduran Enchantress. And so if we play all of the human druids available to us, we have these 6 cards, 3 Ley Druids and 3 Verduran Enchantress. And so we ask ourselves once again, not what is the Lord effect, as I talked about in my Elementals tribal video, but what is the payoff? And the payoff with this deck is going to be insane amounts of mana. We're going to play 10 Wild Growth. This helps us to reliably play one on turn 1, so that turn 2 we can play a Ley Druid or Verduran Enchantress and get ready to go off on turn 3. Wild Growths also are enchantments, and we'll get to rifle through our deck with Verduran Enchantress by repeatedly playing more and more Wild Growths. So we'll stack up all the Wild Growths we can onto one forest, unless we are afraid of Stone Rains from the opponent, and then use Ley Druid to generate insane amounts of mana. We'll play as many Instill Energies as we can on the Ley Druid as well, again drawing cards from Verduran Enchantress, and doubling and tripling the amount of mana we can generate from that multiply enchanted forest. So what do we do with all the mana? One of the best things to do would be to play Force of Nature, but it is not a human druid. And so instead we have these 2 rares, Rocket Launcher. Rocket Launcher is sweet because in Revised 40 I like to play decks that are not available in Unlimited 40 or Alpha 40. Rocket Launcher was originally printed in Antiquities, and so it is unique to this format. But we are going to generate a lot of mana and deal half that damage to the opponent with Rocket Launcher. Now Rocket Launcher says, the revised printing says it is destroyed at end of turn. Gatherer tells you to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end of turn step. So one trick that we can do is at the opponent's end of turn, we activate Rocket Launcher a bunch of times, and then Rocket Launcher will not be sacrificed until the beginning of the end step of our turn. So essentially we'll get to use it twice, and then during our turn we'll also get to use Instill Energies and Ley Druids to generate even more mana. So don't forget that trick. Use Rocket Launcher at the end of the opponent's turn and get double the value. The next big payoff for us is 3 Hurricanes, dealing X damage to all players and all creatures with flying. We should be able to one-hit KO the opponent with Hurricane, but since our deck doesn't have many creatures, not many blockers, not many ways to interact with the opponent's creatures, it may also deal enough damage to destroy ourselves. So depending on what kind of game it is and whether the opponent is going to respond to this favorably, you can draw a lot of games with this deck by hurricaning out both players, and then you'll get to start over and see if you get a better run on the next game. Or we can use a single Stream of Life to get ahead of our opponent and then be able to hurricane them without destroying ourselves in the process. The last non-land card we have is 1 single Regrowth. This will let us get back Rocket Launcher, a Stream of Life, a Hurricane, or one of our downed Ley Druids or Verduran Enchantresses. After that, we play 14 forests. I chose the Eyes Forest, Forest C as it were, for this deck. I like the art of Forest A with Wild Growth. I think the flowers complement each other well. The flowers from Forest A go well with Verduran Enchantress. But right now, I'm getting into Forest C, the Eyes, and I think that it's a cool forest to play if something weird is going on, like a Revised 40 brew. Y'all can tell me what you think in the comments, whether I should play Forest A or Forest C here. So, this deck is really fun. It plays unlike any other Revised 40 deck because you get to do so many game actions. There are so few cards that let you draw extra cards in Revised 40. You have JM Daytone, Wheel of Fortune, Brain Geyser, and Verduran Enchantress. But none of them let you draw the amount that Verduran Enchantress does. Whereas most opponents in Revised 40 are going to just efficiently play mana, hopefully make a land drop, and then play something that requires all of their available mana, you will just get to play longer turns and get to make more decisions and have a little more fun. It feels like you're playing another format when you're playing this deck. The best plays in Revised 40 often are playing an early Soul Ring or Dark Ritual into Hypnotic Spectre or Singer Vampire in the early game. But usually people are playing something like a land and a 1-drop on turn 1, a land and a 2-drop on turn 2, etc. This deck is very different from that. So I just sorted out this deck with the deck tech. I don't know if I've shuffled enough while I'm talking here, but basically most of your games with this deck are goldfishing anyway. So let's take a look and see how this plays. Our opening hand is Rocket Launcher, Ley Druid, Instill Energy, Hurricane, Forest, Wild Growth, Forest. This gives us a turn 2 Ley Druid, and so that looks like a keep to me. Forest, Wild Growth, and then on turn 2 we'll draw another Ley Druid, play a Forest, play a Ley Druid, and go to turn 3. On turn 3 we'll have access to 5 mana, draw a card, have a Wild Growth, even better, play Wild Growth on the same land to maximize the benefit of our Ley Druid. Now this Forest plus the Ley Druid is worth 6 mana. So we'll tap for 3 mana, play a Ley Druid, and we can tap the Ley Druid, untap this land, tap it for 3 green again, use one of the green to play Instill Energy on Ley Druid. There's 2 green mana floating. Untap Ley Druid with Instill Energy, untap this Forest with Ley Druid, tap it to have 5 green mana, and we have an option here to play Hurricane or Rocket Launcher. I'll take a mana burn and play the Rocket Launcher. So then on our next turn, with Hurricane in hand, we'll draw, have a Forest. So now we have the option of tapping this Forest for 3, 6, 9, 12 mana, having 2 more Forests for 13 and 14, Hurricane for 13. We can leave everything alone as is, and at the end of the opponent's turn, tap this Forest for 3, 6, 9, 10 mana, use Rocket Launcher to deal 5 damage to the opponent, and not have to sacrifice Rocket Launcher until the end of our next turn. So right now we'll say that the opponent is at 15. Draw a card, another Instill Energy. So Rocket Launcher is on its way out, but let's just do some math here. If we play an Instill Energy on this Ley Druid, we'll get to tap this Forest for 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 mana, and tap this Forest to play Hurricane after generating 16 mana, and X is going to be 15. rest of the damage to the opponent. Maybe that would kill ourselves in the process. We can decide to draw the game out. We had an option there to activate Rocket Launcher 8 times to bring the opponent from 15 to 7, and then play Hurricane on the next turn as well. It's hard to say what would have gone on in an actual game. We didn't get to go off with Verduran Enchantress, but you get to see the power of human druids with that quantity of wild growths. Hopefully we'll get some gameplay videos in. I have a few people that have messaged me volunteering to play some games and get some commentary with Revised40 games. I think they are fascinating, and there are some teachable moments that are transferable to other formats, and I think there are lots of decisions in the game that matter a lot, especially when the format is so limited that a lot of times you can kind of guess what the opponent might have. So thanks for tuning in. I hope that you've enjoyed this little deck tech and the playthrough Goldfish. Maybe we can do some more later where we get to see the Enchantress in action. And I hope you've enjoyed the music as well. Alright, thanks for tuning in. Good luck, have fun. Talk to you later.